As you watch this video, extraordinary prophetic events are unfolding in Israel just as the Bible foretold more than 2,500 years ago. I'm not talking about vague interpretations or forced coincidences. I'm talking about prophetic alignments so precise that even skeptics are paying attention. Today, we are going to explore 5 prophetic signs happening in Israel right now that may indicate that we are living in the last days. If you are a Christian, prepare to have your faith strengthened. If you're skeptical, get ready to question everything you think you know about Bible prophecy. Let's get started. More than 2,500 years ago, the prophet Zechariah wrote something remarkable in Zechariah chapter 12, verses 2 and 3. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of dizziness for all the peoples round about. In that day I will make Jerusalem a heavy stone for all peoples. All who lift it up will be grievously wounded, and against it all the nations of the earth will be gathered. Think about that for a moment. Zechariah prophesied that in the last days Jerusalem would become the focal point of international conflict. A small city the size of São Paulo in population would cause more geopolitical tension than any other place on earth. This seemed absurd when it was written, but look at 2025. According to recent reports from January 2025, Israel has achieved spectacular military victories against its enemies in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and Iran. But these victories didn't bring peace, they brought more isolation. With each conflict, more nations turn against Israel at the United Nations, in the international media, in global protests. Israel is literally surrounded by adversaries. Hezbollah in Lebanon to the north, Hamas and extremists in Gaza to the south, terrorist groups in Syria and Iran constantly threatening destruction. In June 2025, during conflicts between Israel and Iran, an Iranian official warned that any U.S. intervention would risk an all-out war. The prophet Zechariah said that all the nations of the earth would gather against Jerusalem. The 2,500-year prophecy is being fulfilled before our eyes. Israel survives not by its own strength, but because God promised in Zechariah 12:8, "In that day the Lord will protect the inhabitants of Jerusalem." Now let's talk about something that may sound strange, but is absolutely fascinating: the red heifer. In Numbers chapter 19, God instructed Moses to prepare a purification ceremony using the ashes of a perfect red heifer, no blemish, which was never yoked. This ceremony was necessary to purify the priests before they ministered in the temple in Jerusalem. Here's what's striking. Since the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD, there hasn't been a single qualified red heifer in Israel. Without a red heifer, there is no ritual purification. Without ritual purification, there is no possibility of resuming the sacrifices of the temple. For nearly 2,000 years, this was a seemingly insurmountable obstacle to the reconstruction of the Third Temple. In July 2025, something extraordinary happened. According to Religion News Service, a red heifer burning rehearsal ceremony was held on a remote hill in northern Israel on July 1, 2025, in preparation for an official ceremony on the Mount of Olives near Jerusalem's Old City. Byron Stinson, a businessman from Texas, brought 5 red heifers from Texas to Israel in September 2022 through his Bonnet Israel group. These heifers reached the right age in November 2023. Although, as of August 2025, all of these specific heifers have been disqualified for developing white fur or other imperfections, the fact is that for the first time in nearly 2,000 years, religious groups in Israel are actively sourcing, breeding, and grooming red heifers. The Temple Institute in Jerusalem has been training Kohanim priests to perform the ceremony. Temple utensils are being manufactured. Priestly garments are being woven. Several end-time prophecies mention the temple in Jerusalem. Daniel 9:27 speaks of the Antichrist making sacrifice and grain offering cease. But in order to cease, those sacrifices must first be restarted. In 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4, Paul describes the man of sin sitting in the temple of God. Revelation 11:1-2 mentions John measuring the temple during the tribulation. The presence of skilled red heifers and the active preparations to rebuild the temple are prophetic signs that the final piece of the puzzle may be being put in place. For 2,000 years, this seemed impossible. Now, it is within reach. Let's now turn to one of the most impressive and specific prophecies in the entire Bible. Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39, known as the War of Gog and Magog. Written approximately 2,600 years ago, Ezekiel prophesies a massive invasion of Israel by a coalition of specific nations in the last days. Ezekiel 38:1-6 identifies the invaders: Gog of the land of Magog, prince and chief of Meshech and Tubal, Persia, Cush, Puth, Gomer, and Beth Togarmah. Biblical scholars identify these ancient nations as Magog, Meshech, and Tubal, Russia, northern regions of Israel; Persia, Iran, the name officially changed from Persia to Iran in 1935; Cush, Ethiopia, Sudan; Pute, Libya; Gomer, parts of Turkey; Beth Togarmah, Armenia, Turkey. Ezekiel says that these nations would form a military alliance to invade Israel in the last days. At the time of this writing, many of these nations did not even exist as unified political entities, and never in history had reason to form an alliance. In 2025, this ancient prophecy suddenly makes perfect sense. Russia and Iran are close military allies. According to reports from June 2025, military conflicts between Israel and Iran continue to intensify, with Iran launching ballistic missile attacks against Israel. Russia provides Iran with military technology and political support. Joel Rosenberg, an author and expert on Bible prophecy, noted in 2015 that the Hebrew prophet Ezekiel wrote 2,500 years ago that in the last days of history, Russia and Iran would form a military alliance to attack Israel from the north. Such an alliance, impossible during the Cold War when Israel and Iran were allies, is now a geopolitical reality. Ezekiel 38:8 says that this invasion will take place after many days in recent years to the land that has recovered from the war, whose people have been gathered out of many nations upon the mountains of Israel, which have always been desolate. Israel was refounded in 1948 after nearly 2,000 years. Jews returned from more than 100 nations. Israel has literally been recovered from war since 1948, with conflicts in 1948, 1967, 1973. Ezekiel's prophecy doesn't just foretell the covenant, it foretells the outcome. Ezekiel 38:18-23 says that God will supernaturally destroy this invading coalition. God will intervene with earthquakes, fire, and hail, causing the invading armies to turn against each other. We are seeing the stage being set exactly as Ezekiel described it 2,600 years ago. The prophet Joel, writing about 835 BC, made a stunning prediction about the last days in Joel 2:31. The sun will be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the coming of the great and terrible day of the Lord. Jesus Christ echoed this in Luke 21:25. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. Throughout history, total lunar eclipses, when the moon appears reddish, creating what is called a blood moon, have been seen as significant prophetic signs, especially when they coincide with the Jewish biblical holidays. According to a CBN News report from June 2025, we are currently in the midst of 4 significant heavenly signs that could carry a prophetic message for Israel. A partial lunar eclipse occurred in March 2025, coinciding with the Jewish holiday of Purim, celebrating the liberation of the Jewish people from the genocide planned by Haman in ancient Persia, as recorded in the book of Esther. On September 7th, 2025, there was an 82-minute blood moon visible over Europe, Asia, Africa and Australia, just 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, which is a time of prayer and repentance. And a third blood moon will fall directly over Purim, again, on March 3rd, 2026. This creates an extraordinary pattern. 3 lunar eclipses aligned with specific Jewish holidays in a period of less than a year. Historically, when eclipses coincide with Jewish holidays, significant events often follow in Israel. The last series of 4 consecutive blood moons, tetrada, aligned with Jewish holidays occurred in 2014-2015, during intense conflicts between Israel and Hamas. Coincidences? Perhaps. But when you have 2,800-year-old prophecies predicting specific celestial signs before apocalyptic events, and then those signs begin to appear precisely aligned with the Jewish religious calendar during a period of increasing tension around Israel, it's hard to ignore. Our 5th prophecy comes from the book of Daniel, written around 530 BC. In Daniel 12:4, the angel says to the prophet, "And you, Daniel, shut up these words and seal up this book until the end of time. Many will run from one place to another, and knowledge will multiply." For more than 2,500 years, this prophecy seemed enigmatic. What did it mean? Many will run from one place to another, and knowledge will multiply? For most of human history, people were born, lived, and died within a few miles of where they were born. Knowledge was slowly increasing from generation to generation. Then suddenly, in the last century, and especially in the last few decades, something extraordinary happened. The Industrial Revolution in the 19th century brought trains, steamships, automobiles, and airplanes. Many will run from one place to another suddenly made sense. Today, billions of people travel daily. Airplanes cross continents in hours. People run from place to place on a scale that Daniel could never have imagined. But the part about science will multiply is even more impressive. According to researchers, human knowledge doubled approximately every century until 1900. In 1945, it doubled every 25 years. In 1982, every 12 to 13 months. Today, with the explosion of the internet, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and biotechnology, human knowledge is doubling every 12 hours in some areas. Think of the technologies that have emerged in just the last 20 years. Smartphones that put all human knowledge in the palm of your hand, social networks connecting billions instantly, artificial intelligence capable of creating art and writing code, autonomous vehicles, CRISPR gene editing, quantum computers. We are living in the age of the exponential explosion of knowledge that Daniel prophesied. And there is a deeper prophetic connection. Many of the technologies that exist today make possible the fulfillment of other end-time prophecies. Revelation 13:16-17 speaks of a system where no one can buy or sell without the mark of the beast. For 2,000 years, this seemed impossible. How would you control every global economic transaction? Today, with digital currencies, biometric payment systems, facial recognition identification, and digital social credit, it is not only possible, but it is being implemented in some countries. Revelation 11:9-10 describes an event where those who dwell on the earth will see the bodies of 2 witnesses killed in Jerusalem for 3.5 days. How could the whole world simultaneously witness an event in Jerusalem? For 1,900 years, this prophecy was inexplicable. Today, with live streaming via satellite, smartphones, and social networks, billions can watch any event in real time. Technology has made the impossible not only possible, but every day. Daniel was instructed to seal the book until the end of time. Many scholars believe this means that Daniel's prophecies would become fully understandable only when we were close to their fulfillment, when technology and world events provided the necessary context. We are living in that era now. So what does all this mean? It means that we are living in an extraordinary moment in human history. 5 distinct prophetic signs, written between 2,800 and 2,500 years ago, are all converging simultaneously in Israel in 2025. 1. Zechariah 12. Israel surrounded by enemies, Jerusalem as a heavy stone to the nations, now being fulfilled. 2. Numbers 19. Red heifer preparations to rebuild the temple, happening now. 3. Ezekiel 38. The Russia-Iran-Turkey prophetic alliance against Israel, forming now. 4. Joel 2. Heavenly signs, blood moons aligned with Jewish feasts, occurring now in 2025-2026. 5. Daniel 12. Explosion of knowledge and travel, more evident now than at any other time in history. This is not forced interpretation. This is no coincidence. This is Bible prophecy unfolding before our eyes with mathematical precision. So, what should you do with this information? If you're a Christian, it should fill you with hope, not fear. Jesus said at Luke 21:28, "Now when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is near." Strengthen your faith, share the gospel, live with eternal purpose. If you're not yet a Christian, consider this. The Bible has been predicting events with supernatural accuracy for thousands of years. These prophecies about Israel are only a fraction of the more than 2,500 Bible prophecies, of which about 2,000 have already been fulfilled with absolute accuracy. If the Bible is right about these things, it is right about everything, including the need for salvation through Jesus Christ. The prophetic clock is ticking. The signs are everywhere. The question is not whether these things will happen. Many are already happening. The question is, are you ready? If this video resonated with you, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss anything. And remember, we are living in times the ancient prophets only dreamed of seeing. Until next time, and may God bless you.